Hi, welcome to another riveting episode of the Harvest Podcast with me, Carmel Fisher, and part of our Dealflow Events Discovery Day on Nuclear Energy series. This event will be happening on May 22nd, where we will convene with the thought leaders, industry experts, and breakthrough companies at the forefront of the nuclear energy sector. Currently, this sector is experiencing a renaissance, so this is a very pivotal and important event, a forum which will really help us to dissect the nuances around this increased interest in clean energy, which, of course, driven in part by the needs of data centers and AI technologies.
Brought to you, as always, by the Harvest Podcast, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
With me is Mr. Vinod Chugh, and he's got a fantastic resume and really a panelist who will be featured at this event on May 22nd in Midtown, New York City. We're excited to hear more from Vinod, but as a start, Vinod, welcome, and please tell us more about who you are, where you're currently positioned, and why this event is so important that you wanted to be a part of it.
Thank you, Carmel. It's a pleasure to join you at the Dealflow Discovery Day, which is focused around nuclear energy. As you mentioned, it's a pivotal moment, time of the history that we are trying to reinvigorate the whole nuclear industrial sector all across the world, not only USA and Canada, where I belong to. So my name is Vinod Chugh. I help turn basically big energy ideas into more real-world infrastructure. Over the last 30 plus years, I had the opportunity to lead and advise across the full spectrum of the life cycle of clean energy technologies, whether it's nuclear fission, fusion, hydrogen, renewables, and grid modernization. My experience spans pretty much public utilities and private ventures, both, including leadership roles at Kairos Power, Moltex Energy, OPG, Bruce Power. And I also serve as a board director of the Organization of Canadian Nuclear Industry, which represents about 270 supply chain companies supporting the nuclear and clean energy sectors. Now, through my consultancy, I work closely with developers, investors, regulators, and supply chain members. And that helps me bridge the critical gaps between feasibility, licensing, commercial strategy, and execution. So, especially when we are trying to scale the small modular reactors SMR, which is becoming very the latest features around advanced nuclear technologies, but there are lots of practical difficulties or challenges that I would like to bring to the site in this particular discussion and share my insight based on practical experience rather than just theoretical thought process that's coming into various startups.
Excellent. Yeah, we're really thrilled and excited to dive deeper into that at the actual forum. Now, you've got extensive cross-sector expertise, as you've just mentioned, and you do kind of position yourself at the intersection of technical innovation, commercialization, and industry leadership. Also labeled as someone who helps to turn big energy ideas into real-world infrastructure. You're a panelist on the SMR topic, the small modular reactors and the power the future of AI and data centers will be fueling. What insights are you hoping to really unpack at this event that will help not get from traditional industry sources, right? The information that we're going to get at this event that we typically will not find anywhere else.
That's a good question, Carmel. At Discovery Day, I want to move beyond the glossy brochures and familiar talking points, basically driven by various sponsors and investors trying to sugarcoat some of the realistic approach that is required for nuclear. The idea that I want to share with the rest of the audience is that even though there's a lot of promise in clean base load power, job creation, energy security with nuclear industry, and we have done this before. If you look at the history, 60s to 90s, we have built around 600 reactors across the world. So it can be done. Like in terms of the success, I think we have done it before. It can be done, but we need specific executional realities into be grounded from what lofty targets like tripling by certain dates and all. So we have to be more realistic in managing public perception as well as investors' requirements, and not to be pressurized by targets, but be more realistic, show that it can be done. We have done it before, and then I'll share some uh, key success criteria or factors that go into nuclear development and deployment, and that should help various audience, whether they are engineers, developers, or investors, or utilities, to understand the real dynamics that are involved in new nuclear deployment. Since we haven't done it for a while, but it can be done. But if we have to approach in a systematic way rather than committing too much or doing something very fancy, it doesn't work that way. Regulation is not there yet to support some kind of fancy designs we are pursuing. So I'll stop here in terms of the specific response, but we can discuss more during the discovery day.
Excellent. And just to remind our viewers that attendance is free for this Discovery Day on nuclear energy in New York City. It's free for qualified investors and analysts. Moving on, Vinod, your LinkedIn profile highlights expertise across multiple clean energy technologies. How do you see SMRs fitting into an integrated energy ecosystem alongside fusion, renewables, hydrogen, particularly for meeting the escalating power demands of AI data centers?
Great question again, Carmel. So before I answer your question, I want to explain why I ended up creating a company called Power Generation Integrated. First 25 years I spent fully on nuclear industry all across the world. Started in India, moved to Canada, went to US, UK, worked on few technologies and all. And when I looked at the mindset, the culture we had in the industry, we were more inward oriented with a focus around operational excellence. And don't get me wrong, we did a wonderful job, and that's why created that credibility. And now we are talking about nuclear renaissance. But at the same time, we were not set up for growth because we were not talking outside the industry. We were talking within ourselves, patting each other's back, excellent job and all. The focus of the company that I created was to outreach outside nuclear, share insights, and see how we can decarbonize various industrial sectors. Now, SMRs is one of the concept that helps decarbonize because it's a smaller scale, faster deployment. We are not there yet because economy of scale is not there. Commitment is not there for large number of SMRs. But once we get there, it's going to be wonderful for whether it's data center or any other requirements for heat, power, and energy we want to meet. So from that point of view, I've leveraged my experience for last 10 years and got into space where my focus was primarily how we can integrate nuclear with other energy systems, whether it's stabilizing grid or adding additional power for data centers or decarbonizing mining sector. And that's where I see a lot of value, but we need some patience around that because nuclear growth is slow. But once we are there, it would be a wonderful thing for the whole world that we got into nuclear space again, leveraging our previous experience.
Wonderful, and definitely an interesting time to be alive and to be a part and of this industry, to watch as things unfold. Now, you've held leadership roles with key players like Kairos Power, Maltex Energy, OPG, Bruce Power. Based on this diverse experience, common challenges are they facing as they scaling from concept to commercially viable deployment?
Yeah, so Carmel, most of the people, whether it's within nuclear or outside nuclear, somehow they view it's a technology issue. I'm not convinced with that. It's more of an alignment issue, not only with the technology, but with the regulators, supply chain, various other stakeholders like investors and public perception. That's where we need to focus around how to go ahead with confidence. I'm pretty sure some of the startups, the new technologies, they will come ahead. but we have to be very systematic in our approach. The way I look at when I work with various companies and all, some of the designs are ready for deployment in next few years. Those are the light water cooled reactors. Some others are far down the road, like molten salt reactors and other technologies. They're not ready for construction or even attracting a partner like EPC partner and all. So from that point of view, it's very easy to get distracted by new shiny things like fusion and lots of advanced fission reactors. Let's not get distracted. Have a systematic approach. Target about successful technologies for next at least 10 years. Once we start building that and achieving success, and then the supply chain ecosystem will develop. And then we go for those newer technologies, which are definitely better, safer on paper, but there's a lot of work required to bridge those gaps in our understanding as well as the actual reality that will go when we get into commercial space. So partnership strategies around that with a systematic approach will help grow nuclear much faster and scale much faster if rather than going for advanced technology now and failing and losing that confidence and then not getting anywhere.
Right. And so let's look at supply chain innovations or adaptations. As the board member of the Organization of Canadian Nuclear Industries, representing at least 270 suppliers, what supply chain innovations or adaptations do you believe are most critical for the successful widespread deployment of SMR technology?
Yeah, so Carmel, the way I look at the supply chain ecosystem, it's driven by the utilities or the sponsor who is basically funding the projects for their needs. And most of the supply chain, if you look at in North America, they are focused around supporting operation, maintenance, and life extension of nuclear power plants. So, what is that doing? And the mindset in that type of culture is form, fit, and function. So it's a kind of knowledge that whatever existing component you have, if you want to replace it, it should meet the form, fit, and function requirements. So there is not much innovation involved in terms of trying new things because the whole mandate is to keep the lights on. And we need to change that. If we really need to grow, we need to adapt some digital innovation, integration with various types of AI, machine learning tools, predictive modeling, and also modularizing various reactors in a way that make it a product rather than a power plant so that you can easily sell, like you're buying a fridge or something like that. So you just sell a plant or SMR like a product for certain applications. So now this is not a single country type of phenomena. We have to get together, at least the Western world, who share the same type of infrastructure and thought process. They should put together a plan. Okay, these are the applications we need certain SMRs, and these are the technologies which are likely to succeed or already there. Let's go for it and make it a product. That's the kind of thinking I want to bring into the supply chain ecosystem, working with various stakeholders as a board director at OCNI.
Awesome. So your work spans four areas: feasibility, regulatory alignment, commercialization, and like we just spoke about, the supply chain scalability. Which of these four areas do you believe presents the greatest opportunity for investors who will be attending the Discovery Day event, and why?
Yeah, so all four areas are critical in one way or the other, but based on my experience over 34 years in the industry, it's the commercialization that's very critical. If you look at the current workforce that's getting into the industry, either they are coming from non-nuclear industry, so they're not fully familiar with cultural mindset, the quality assurance programs that we follow, or they are coming from academic background, professors, PhDs, and they have pretty good ideas in terms of how they want to proceed. But when you hit the commercial aspect, whether it's supply supply chain or whether it's working with the regulator, uh, it's a different thing. Like that's where my role comes in, and I've tried to fill that gap multiple times. So in last 10 years, I might have done around 150 consultations, with 100 of those focused around purely nuclear and its application. Other 50 were like other energy systems in infrastructure, water, mining, and all, because I was able to extend my knowledge and understanding of licensing and supply chain to other industries, pretty much that needs heat, power, and energy. So coming back to commercialization, so the way it has to happen is, first of all, there has to be a demand signal that is to be generated by policymakers. If you're really serious about decarbonization and clean energy and stabilization of grid with reliable, clean, and robust nuclear power plants, the policy has to support that kind of program. You cannot leave commercialization of nuclear power to business elements or market, because market cannot support that, because the ROI and all these are very long term. So there has to be certain policies that would support like 15, 20, 30-year policy that this is our target, leave it alone. And one of the way comparison is defense programs. So we don't leave defense programs to market. And to me, stable, clean energy nuclear power is not less than defense, because without that, our grid will be lost or destabilized and we won't get anywhere. So from that point of view, having those power purchase agreement, energy as a service model, or heat buyers for high temperature heat for, for various purposes, those needs to be generated now for next 15 years, 20 years commitment, and then have some public finance, public private finance program that will help grow the ecosystem of supply chain, certain kind of order books that supply chain has, so that they can enhance their capabilities. Whether it's site technologies or offtake, everything, the entire sector has to be kind of reinvigorated in a way that we are set up for success, not by one or two reactors here and there, 100 million here, 50 million here, 900 million here. That doesn't cut it. You need tens of billions of dollars of commitments for each country, and together working with a harmonized regulatory system, codes and standards. That's how we are going to do it. Otherwise, we are just going to just stay like that, like little pockets of nuclear power in certain areas, and that's it. We're not going to grow too much if we follow the current approach. So that's my kind of conclusion in terms of commercialization.
Wonderful. And this is one of the very reasons why the Dealflow Events has created this awesome Discovery Day, the inaugural Discovery Day on nuclear energy. So join us on May 22nd, Midtown, New York City. Find more information on Dealflow Events website, but also discoverydays.com. Be sure to attend, register, because this is the forum that will be creating the blueprint for the next era of nuclear energy. This has been fantastic, Vinod Chugh. We look forward to uncovering a lot more insights from you at the forum. You're listening to the Harvest Podcast. Stay tuned for more insights coming up very soon.
Thank you for having me, Carl.
Brought to you, as always, by the Harvest Podcast, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.